Hello, everyone. My name is Andrew Chu. I am a technologist in data management at Western Digital Fremont site in California. And I work on helping the teams build Spotfire solutions to support the factory operations. Over to you, Mohana.
Thanks, Andrews. Hi, everybody. My name is Mohan Dantabhaktini. I am working as a TIPCO Spotfire administrator in Western Digital. I've been working here for about 3 years now, and I support Spotfire infrastructure for all the factories in WD. And I'm very excited to be on this conference again.
Mohana and myself, we are going to be talking today about our Spotfire journey at Western Digital's Wafer factories located in California. So starting with an introduction, at Western Digital, we have 2 wafer factories located in Fremont and San Jose, California. These factories build the hard drive heads using technologies and methods very similar to semiconductor factories, which we commonly call clean rooms. The heads are an integral part of the hard drive. And in this diagram here, you can see that what we build at the wafer factories are wafers, which are essentially cut up to form really, really small heads that are part of the hard drive that records and reads back magnetic regions on a platter. And these are then electrically transformed into ones and zeros in the computer. The manufacturing process for these wafers is very complex, requiring high precision tools, specialized equipment, very skilled people, and the infrastructure to produce really 2 products. The first product is wafers that are cut up to form heads that are then used to build hard drives. The second product is a byproduct of the manufacturing process, which is data. And this is really our data story involving TIPCO Spotfire. There's a saying that great things take time to grow, and this is really applicable to our experience with using Spotfire, where we started really small. In this case, it starts with a seed, and over time, that seed grows into many trees to form a forest. So hopefully I can share this story with everyone here. So when we brought Spotfire in, it actually started a little bit before 2015, but up to 2015, when we talked about Spotfire, the typical user response was, "What is Spotfire?" And that was a challenge in itself because we were trying to introduce Spotfire as an analytic solution for looking at the data that we have. But so if you look in terms of data, we were extracting data from factory systems, as I mentioned, loading into text files. We were looking at mostly summarized data sets. We didn't have any business processes that defined how we developed any analytic solutions. And our users were really using Spotfire in the analyst license to develop dashboards, which was used more for ad hoc analysis. And really, they were basic dashboards for engineering use cases. So if you look at the spectrum of analytics solutions, where we have descriptive versus diagnostic versus predictive and prescriptive, at this time frame, a lot of the solutions were falling into the descriptive type of dashboards, meaning they were looking at trying to explain what happened. So going forward to 2018 to 2019, this is what I call the growth phase. So from one factory in Fremont, we started expanding our the Spotfire analysis access to the other factory located in San Jose. And the IT teams concurrently were building up the data infrastructure, which now we started seeing cloud data. We were seeing more on-premise databases, data sources that we could access. And ETL jobs were getting more complicated as we had to move a lot of data from on-premise to the cloud that can be accessed by a wider population. We still had data sitting in network folders. And in terms of the analytics tool, what was significant about this time frame was Spotfire was chosen as the de facto standard platform for analytics over Jump, over Minitab, over other solutions that we looked at. And I'll explain some of the reasons why this was chosen. But with Spotfire being the dominant, the main platform that we use, a lot of the additional tools were still available, but what was also introduced with Spotfire was ability to use in Python and HTML to expand our analytics solutions that we build. Now, at this time, we also started thinking about business processes to manage how we deploy dashboards to be used in Spotfire to be used for production use. We started thinking about project management strategies to develop dashboards, and we started thinking about how can we document our dashboards so that how the dashboards work and what are the components, things that describe a dashboard can be captured. And in terms of user groups, we are seeing an expanded user base, which now included operations teams as well as IT support. Now, from the perspective of scaling up Spotfire environments, we were starting to see typical user response. How do I get Spotfire? So as more and more folks were seeing reports and dashboards in Spotfire, we were getting a lot of interest of different teams to say, can I get Spotfire? So our data infrastructure in this time frame really expanded as well, like I mentioned, because of adding the cloud repositories and including databases from factories. And having the formalized business processes to kind of manage change control, look at specifications and procedures on Spotfire dashboards was a process that we really started to engage with. And this time frame was also significant in that we started using Spotfire in a factory for the first time. This took the form of big screen TVs in the different work bays that showed the status of production material and pretty much in real time. And these were 17 bays that had these 55-inch screen TVs running a unique Spotfire dashboard that is specific for each work bay. And in terms of usage, we were starting to build and deploy more sophisticated dashboards. And from the analytics spectrum, these dashboards started to become fall into the diagnostic category, which kind of explains why it happened. So we were building dashboards that allowed us to explain what happened, and then we could use it to understand why things happened. Now, coming to the present, 2020, 2021, this is where we scaled a lot. In terms of the factory systems, we were not just accessing the wafer factories, but we were also accessing factory data from factories downstream from the wafer factories. These were located in Philippines and Thailand. And for the data infrastructure, it really grew. Our cloud infrastructure is very large. We have access to just about every on-premise data source to pull data. ETL jobs are complex, and there's a lot of them running. And again, the network data folder is still there, but it's now transition to, instead of pulling data out of there, we're using it more for reference data, like just quick lookup tables. What was significant is we added TIBCO's data visualization solution as a layer to help provide summarize views of the data across many disparate databases. And in terms of analytics, it's now expanded to include machine learning, data science activities. We're starting to use data functions heavily in using TER, some open source R. Python is very much integrated into a lot of the dashboards that we use. In terms of business processes, this has matured to the point where we now have very clear procedures to handle change control. We have project management. We use Smartsheet tracking to manage changes to production dashboards. And Jira is a product we use to handle IT projects. And significantly, we also incorporated IT teams to provide 24/7 SLAs, service level agreements, to support a production Spotfire. User groups are now spanning the entire management, starting from management, the entire organization layers, starting with management, down to engineering, down to quality. So all the teams in the factories know and use Spotfire in some way, shape, or form in their day-to-day activities. And so the response we're getting more commonly these days is Spotfire working? And this is, I think it has been a huge change from what is Spotfire back in 2015 to now everybody's using Spotfire. And if something is not working, it's immediately raised to a level where my colleague Mohana is very aware of what's going on. Data infrastructure expansion, as I mentioned, we moved data to the cloud for access at enterprise level. We also incorporated smart factory initiatives to drive the expansion of on-premise databases. So this is definitely a growing area for us. In terms of standardizing our business practices, we incorporated best practices for project management, change requests, change control, and really the dashboard software development lifecycle, of SDLC as it's called. And again, we have 24/7 support. And the change that we also saw was that Spotfire dashboards are now used in daily reviews for critical factory metrics. And the type of dashboards being built by different teams now encompass data science to analyze and predict based on the data we are seeing. So we have really matured in terms of dashboard solutions, going from descriptive, diagnostic to predictive and prescriptive solutions. In summary, Spotfire has been central to the growth of the analytics ecosystem at Western Digital over the past 5 years. It integrated very well with our database repositories, our advanced data analytics activities, smart factory initiatives, reporting, and business intelligence. And what really differentiated Spotfire from other BI tools is firstly, the flexibility of the platform, where the ability to connect to data sources, perform ETL and data mashup was very easy to do. With Spotfire, it was we could see very fast development cycle from prototype to production dashboards. And we saw a significant return on investments through insights on the data, which allowed end users to understand problems and be proactive about addressing issues. So essentially, this was saving us a lot of loss in the factories. Spotfire was also easy to integrate with data science components that supported our smart factory initiatives in terms of the IIoT type solutions that we were building out. And lastly, what has been significant is that we saw a lot of adoption and an enablement through training. And users just love the fact that they can access analytics across all levels of the organization through web browsers at any time, essentially in meetings, in offices, to understand and look at monitoring data that they're interested in. So I'm going to move on to the next section here that talks about some of the changes that we had to incorporate as we grew Spotfire. And I'm going to hand over to my colleague, Mohana, to start with a discussion on architectural changes of our Spotfire deployment.
Thank you, Andrew. So Andrew talked about how Spotfire was set up in the early 2015s, which was a simple workstation, which included all the components on one machine, and we created local users. And quickly, we had to set up a bigger environment based on the growth and the demand we experienced with Spotfire. So we had spin up a dev and prod environment as one environment, okay, and we had to connect to several multiple domain controllers to give access to people across the globe. You can see how the demand has grown from simple workstation to users wanting to access Spotfire from across the globe. Then we had one Spotfire server with statistic services on the machine itself, and then we had two web players. Okay. And in this time frame right now, if you see 2018 and 2019, the demand grew further, and we had to increase the capacity of the system to process more requests and support processing of higher amounts of data. So if you see this, we have increased the number of data sources significantly, and we had to separate out the Spotfire server and statistics servers for better performance. And we also separated the environments into dev and production, because we do not want to use the production resources for development and testing. The product by this time, Spotfire has become very critical for business, and if something is down or not responding or slow, I get calls immediately. So I have to make sure that the system is properly capacitated and tuned to support the business. At this time in 2018, by this time we had to increase the Java heap for better performance, and Andrew was able to set up a CRB, a change review board, to make sure that every content that is developed in the development environment is properly reviewed and approved before moving to production. And I have also added Splunk monitoring, because Spotfire became mission critical for factories, and Splunk was able to send out alerts to me so that I can take care of the system performance issues proactively before even the business gets to me reporting the issues. So the next slide is the current architecture of Spotfire in production and development. We have the bottom of the slide. I'm showing that the number of features that we have added to these environments, are the best in class. We have included the single sign-on, and the environments are highly available with clustered Spotfire servers, and there is redundancy at every level, Spotfire level and web players, automation services. At every level there is redundancy, because I want to make sure that the system is more and more available. If something goes down, there is always another Spotfire server or the web player supporting the environment. And we have increased the Java heap further because as the demand is such, and we've increased the capacity to handle more concurrent jobs. So we are able to process at least 8 jobs to 16 jobs concurrently right now. And we're also using disk cache. to improve the performance of scheduled updates, because sometimes we had to take system down and we bring system back up. All scheduled updates would start executing at once and puts load on the databases. So to ease that load, we are now using disk cache, which is cached on the NAS device. If you see this diagram over here, there is a NAS device that caches all the dashboards onto the disk as well. And like I said, it's also a self-service environment. We have chosen some folks in the teams who can migrate their content from dev to prod after it is properly reviewed and updated. So now that we have multiple Spotfire environments in WD, it is very important that I give an identity to these environments. Now we have introduced co-branding so that the users thoroughly know to which environment they're logging into. And then we've also enhanced the Splunk monitoring so that we monitor at every level, like end-to-end monitoring. So we monitor the HTTP response time, we monitor the database events, we also monitor the critical events happening in the logs. This is all for proactive action. Something goes wrong and something is about to happen, we catch that immediately and we take action.
Thank you, Mohana. I'm going to continue our presentation here with talking about some of the growth changes in terms of business processes, specifically content management. We had to create a change review board to implement SDLC methodology for Spotfire dashboards that we use in production. And really, this is about revision control of Spotfire dashboards. The implementation is what I'm showing here on the diagram that just popped up. It covers development, UAT, and production release of dashboards. The change review board is central to each of these stages, where at the end of development, where we have prototype dashboards, the review board takes a look at all aspects of whether the dashboard meets all the user requirements, that we have the schematics, which is essentially the documentation that we create as we build a dashboard, and a checklist to move on to the next stage, which is user acceptance testing. At the end of the user acceptance testing, the review board again takes a look at the final dashboard and validates that all requirements are met, and that user and there are no more issues, and everything is per what the user needs for the dashboard. And once approval is given, we have our Spotfire admins like Mohana or other team members who have been trained in this process to essentially what we call migrate the dashboard from the development to the production environment. And once it's released, there's usually a follow-up to ensure that to let the end users know that the dashboard is up and going, and to provide feedback if they note any problems. So the implementation of the board itself comprises IT teams, developers, and data analytics to review each step of this process. Now, in terms of how this review board, the role it plays, it's tightly integrated with the user communities, and together with overseeing how content is moved from development to production, to making sure that the correct data is being used for production dashboards. Now, one of the activities with CRB, or the change review process, is documentation. And the challenge we had here was, how do you describe a Spotfire dashboard and how it works in a format that takes no more than 30 seconds? We tried different methods, Microsoft Word, Excel, and everything was just wordy, and assuming that someone has to figure out how something works, it takes quite a bit of time. So we found a solution by way of providing high-level views of data actions within Spotfire from the source to final table. And this helps our IT support teams debug and troubleshoot problems with any dashboard functional issues when needed. And to implement this, we took advantage of a really cool Spotfire feature, which is data canvas. And we just capture the snapshots of the data canvas and save it in a PowerPoint document with all the relevant information that allows someone from our response teams, when the dashboard is not working, that is trying to debug a potential dashboard problem, kind of look at the documentation and kind of understand where the data is coming from and what data tables are being used to drive the visualizations within the dashboard. So with that, I'm going to jump on to the use case examples just to highlight how we use Spotfire. One example of dashboards in terms of the categories, we look at a lot of patterns on wafers. And these examples here show wafers patterns that coming out of the factory in different parts of the manufacturing line. And the purpose here is to view the patterns on thousands of metrology and parametric measurements on wafers. And the approach has been to build dashboards with comprehensive drill downs to support users to select wafers of interest and enter parameters that they want to see and display the wafer maps either as a stacked mode, which is on the top right here, or in an unstacked mode where it's showing individual wafers. With the stack mode, we could detect commonalities in defects across wafers. And it's not just a few. Our dashboards allow us to stack as many as 300 wafers literally in 10 seconds. We also integrated data functions to build visualizations that show contour plots as well as gradient maps to kind of indicate uniformity across wafers. The benefits of this is that it improves our process monitoring by the engineering community for the wafers in the line. And it helps us with reducing misprocessing of wafers due to process tool excursions. Another example that I wanted to share is coming out of our IoT initiatives, where we are looking at gas bottle monitoring. These gas bottles are used by our process gases, in form of gas cylinders. There are hundreds of them in a factory. And what we did was to attach sensors to these gas bottles to read their pressure readings remotely and compile the data on a time basis in a database. And we have a dashboard that now provides a overall status via traffic light patterns. Green is good, yellow is warning, and red is an alarm, where in this example here, in the chart below, we can look at trend charts and kind of see when the gas pressure has reached either a warning limit or a critical limit that indicates that it's run out of gas. And the dashboards here, again, we incorporate control limits as well as Holt Winters prediction on usage trends to give our equipment engineers a sense of when they need to decide to change a bottle before the next group of wafers are being processed on the tool, for example. So the benefits of this is that it gives us a low latency snapshot of the gas cylinder statuses throughout the factories. It also gives us the ability to drill down for the equipment engineering guys to detect any abnormal usage or leaks. And this one here is a big saver in terms of time, because having a dashboard here that someone can look at quickly really eliminated about 5 hours of walkthroughs throughout the factory to go check every gas bottle. This is our journey of how we grew Spotfire at our wafer factories in Western Digital. Thank you very much for your time.